Every time a customer gets frustrated and hangs up the phone without booking an oil change, it effectively costs a dealership $12,000.
Oh, yeah. It's a staggering number.
Right. Welcome to Auto News Talk. You know, when you think about the auto industry, the flashy headlines are like, oh, they're almost always focused on the exact same things.
No, for sure. The shiny new models rolling off the assembly line.
Exactly. Aggressive sheet metal, massive horsepower numbers. But if you look closely, the actual battleground for the industry's survival and really its profitability has quietly shifted away from all that glamour.
It absolutely has. I mean, the spotlight is always pointed squarely at the showroom floor, but the real existential stakes, they're hidden in the back.
In the service space.
Right. Down in the service bays, and then way further up the chain in the global supply networks.
Yeah, so we are mapping out a massive industry pivot for you. We're going to trace the immense pressure building up at the massive global factory floors in Germany, and then we're going to follow that exact same pressure straight down to your local dealership level.
Because the goal here isn't just to stare at spreadsheets or numbers.
No, not at all. It's to uncover a hidden multi-thousand-dollar leak in auto retail. We want to show why a dealership's entire survival now hinges on something surprisingly mundane.
It essentially comes down to scheduling an oil change before a customer drives off the lot.
Which sounds so simple, right?
It does. But to understand what happens when you hand your keys to a service visor, you first have to grasp the massive macroeconomic forces squeezing the automakers themselves.
So let's start at the top of the funnel with that macro squeeze. For decades, the automotive playbook was, well, it was pretty straightforward.
Very predictable.
Yeah, you build a massive, highly efficient central manufacturing hub, usually in your home country, and you export those cars all over the world.
Sort of like a massive global kitchen.
Right. You cook all the food in one highly optimized place and you ship it out. That works beautifully right up until the delivery tolls get so high that the food is just way too expensive by the time it arrives.
And that global kitchen model is exactly what is breaking down right in front of us.
Because of those delivery tolls.
Yeah, which are, of course, tariffs. An automotive news report on Volkswagen highlights precisely how painful this unraveling actually is for the big players.
Oh, yeah. VW is in the thick of it.
They really are.
Yeah.
VW is being forced to fundamentally rework its entire global footprint. They're shifting production away from those historic central hubs and moving it much closer to the end consumer markets.
And they are doing this because the old, Germany-centered export model is essentially just bleeding money against these intensifying tariff pressures, right?
Exactly. The report details that VW isn't just trimming around the edges anymore.
We're not talking about cutting back on office supplies.
No, we aren't talking about incremental cost-saving steps. They are preparing for deep, consequential cuts to their core manufacturing structure. The push is full-on localization.
Building the car where you sell the car.
Right. Because if you do that, you blunt the tariff costs and you insulate yourself from all these volatile global logistics costs.
But localizing production isn't just flipping a switch. I mean, if we stick with that kitchen analogy, building a new local kitchen means you have to buy all new stoves and refrigerators.
It's massively expensive.
Right. For an automaker, that means duplicating billions of dollars in tooling.
It's a logistical nightmare. You have to duplicate the highly calibrated stamping machines, the robotics, the paint shops.
And find new suppliers, too.
Oh, absolutely. You have to completely realign your supplier networks across entirely different continents. And the sheer scale of the mismatch here is just staggering.
What do the numbers look like?
Well, according to the Automotive News Report, VW currently has about 12 million units of annual production capacity. But, and this is the kicker, they're only looking at roughly 9 million in expected sales.
Wait, 3 million cars worth of overcapacity?
Yep.
So you're paying to keep the lights on, the machines maintained, and the workers paid for 3 million vehicles that literally nobody is buying.
Which is exactly why they are scrambling to align that capacity with realistic demand. Plus, they have to navigate increasingly strict local content rules. Protecting their profit margins requires this massive, painful restructuring.
But there is a pretty glaring question hanging over all of this, isn't there?
Oh, definitely.
Because what that report doesn't answer is exactly which plants or specific nameplates are actually going to be reallocated, or on what timeline.
It's all up in the air.
Right. It leaves thousands of factory workers and entire regional supply chains in this bizarre state of suspended animation.
It's a looming axe.
Yeah.
And when you see manufacturers absorbing that kind of cost and chaos, taking these massive hits to their margins just to survive the macro environment, you really have to look further down the chain.
Which brings us directly to the retail side. I mean, if the manufacturers are eating billions in realignment costs and facing this intense squeeze, what is keeping the actual retail dealerships afloat?
That's the real mystery for a lot of people.
Because they aren't the ones paying the international tariffs, sure, but they are dealing with tightening consumer wallets and super volatile vehicle sales.
Right. And the answer lies in what the industry calls fixed operations.
The service and parts department.
Exactly. It is the absolute fortress of the dealership model. If we look at the Q1 results from Penske Automotive Group, it serves as the perfect proof of concept for how critical this is.
Yeah, I was looking at those.
Their financials reveal that service and parts are providing an incredible, steady safety net. It completely offsets the much softer, volatile vehicle sales market.
Yeah, looking at these Penske numbers, frankly, it doesn't look like an industry in crisis at all. Their Q1 results actually beat Wall Street forecasts on both profit and revenue.
They did. They delivered over 126,000 retail and commercial units. But the real story is where the stability is actually coming from.
Right, it wasn't just consumer cars.
No, their commercial truck service and parts division grew by 4.1%. And they're using the massive cash flow from those service bays to actively expand.
Oh, like the Lexus deal.
Yes, they're in the process of acquiring 2 Orlando Lexus dealerships, which is expected to add roughly $450 million in annualized revenue.
The number that really jumps off the page for me, though, is the sheer volume of the service revenue. Penske reported that retail automotive service and parts revenue increased 4.6% to a record $864 million.
Nearly $1 billion.
In one quarter, just from fixing cars and selling parts.
It fundamentally proves why fixed operations are the ultimate hedge against a bad economy. When affordability drops and interest rates spike, a consumer might look at a $50,000 new car and decide, well, they just can't afford the monthly payment.
Right, they back out.
But they still have to commute to work. They still have to fix the brakes on the car they already own. Penske leaned heavily into that reality.
They did. But, you know, we have to be careful not to paint with too broad a brush here.
Fair point.
Because what this earnings report doesn't detail is the underlying pricing, the segment margins, or the same-store sales trends beyond that massive top-line number.
Right. We see the big revenue, but the exact profitability mechanics underneath are a bit hidden.
Like how much they're paying to retain the technicians doing the work.
Exactly.
And I actually have to push back on the narrative here a little bit. If Penske is pulling in nearly $1 billion in the service bay, why are we seeing other data showing average franchise dealers in absolute panic mode?
It's a great question.
Because those two realities simply don't match. If service is this massive gold mine, everyone should be digging, right?
That is the crucial tension in the market. The fortress of fixed operations is actually looking incredibly shaky for the average, everyday franchise dealer. A Q2 dealer sentiment survey from Judge Service reveals a very stark, very concerning divergence in the market.
What kind of divergence?
Well, franchise retailers are rapidly losing confidence in after-sales, while at the exact same time, independent repair shops are absolutely thriving.
Let's look at the mechanics of that. According to the Judge Service survey, franchise new car sales sentiment is relatively stable. I mean, it's not great, but it's holding.
Yeah, it's treading water.
But their service sentiment is dropping fast. Meanwhile, the independent shops, the corner garages, the regional chains, they are increasingly upbeat about both used car sales and after sales.
The drop in franchise sentiment implies that these dealers are facing a severe wait-and-see customer attitude. Consumers are getting highly cautious about discretionary repair work.
But the drop is huge.
The sheer cliff dive of the numbers is shocking. The survey points out that franchise after-sales optimism literally halved. It plummeted from 44% to just 22%.
Halved. And what were the independent shops reporting?
The independent shops reported a 0% negative outlook on after-sales.
Wait, zero?
Zero. None of them are worried.
That is a massive divide. And it signals a major vulnerability for the franchise networks. They are rapidly losing their grip on retaining short-cycle workshop demand.
The oil changes, the brake pads, the routine stuff.
Exactly. Though we should point out a limitation in the data here. What the Judge Service release doesn't provide is any regional or brand-level breakdown.
Right. That's a blind spot.
We don't know if luxury dealers are feeling this more than volume brands or if it's localized to certain economies.
True, it's a broad snapshot. But it's a snapshot of franchise dealers bleeding customers to the independents, which immediately raises the most important question, why?
Yeah, why?
I mean, the franchise dealership has the shiny waiting room, the espresso machine, and most importantly, the factory-trained technicians. Why are they losing out to the guy down the street?
An analysis on service defection gets right to the root of this, and it comes down to a massive unforced error in the customer experience. Dealerships are losing customers based on perceived price gaps, convenience, and timing. And this happens before the customer even gets the chance to speak to a service advisor.
It's the friction of the process. The defection analysis points out a massive 50-point gap between a customer's stated intent to return to the selling dealer and them actually booking their first service appointment.
50 points. So, let me get this straight. A customer buys a car. The salesperson asks, "Will we see you for your first oil change?" And the customer says, "Absolutely."
Right.
But half of them never actually show up.
Never. Because when the time comes, they try to book an appointment and the system is just clunky, or the dealer doesn't have an opening for 3 weeks.
Oh, that's the worst.
The defection isn't about capability, It's about execution. The independent shops are simply executing better on timing and convenience. You call a local shop, and they just tell you to drop it off this afternoon.
There is also a massive psychological barrier here, too. Customers actually have a highly warped perception of dealership pricing.
Oh, 100%.
The reality is that dealership visit costs can actually be entirely comparable to general repair shops for routine maintenance. But the customer just assumes the dealers are going to rip them off. They see the massive glass showroom and assume they're paying for the overhead.
And that assumption is incredibly destructive, not just for the service department, but for the entire business model. The analysis notes that 88% of consumers link their service experience to their next car purchase.
Wait, let's pause on that. 88%.
88%. So when a fixed ops department fails, when they make it too hard to book an appointment, or they overcharge for an inspection, they are directly cannibalizing future car sales.
And this is where that incredible financial metric comes in. Paint the picture for a second. A customer tries to book an appointment online, the website crashes, they call in, they get put on hold for 10 minutes, and they finally just hang up and go to the quick lube place down the street. They have a decent experience there. 3 years later, they are ready to buy a new car, but they feel absolutely zero loyalty to the original dealer because they haven't been back since the day they bought it.
That single moment of friction is devastating.
A Cox Automotive estimate cited in the analysis shows that dealers forfeit roughly $12,000 in revenue for every single lost service customer.
$12,000, walking out the door because the phone rang too many times, or the online calendar was confusing.
With new vehicle sales projected to remain highly volatile, retaining your existing owners through flawless service reception is literally the only realistic way to secure future vehicle sales. The service bay feeds the showroom.
Exactly.
But the lingering problem, and what this analysis doesn't fully answer, is how dealerships can permanently change that deeply ingrained consumer perception.
Because it's so baked in.
Right. Even if you match the local shop's price on an oil change, how do you convince a driver who has spent 20 years assuming the dealer is always the more expensive option?
Well, perception is notoriously hard to change with just marketing. If the battle is being lost on convenience and timing before the appointment is even booked, you can't just run a billboard campaign. You have to fundamentally modernize your operational approach. You have to remove the friction.
So how do you actually intercept that customer before they defect to the independent shop?
Technology.
Right. The answer, as it is with most operational bottlenecks, is tech. The announcement of BusyCar's Q1 updates to its service engine platform offers a really compelling roadmap for how dealerships are trying to stop this $12,000 bleed.
It is entirely about closing the loop between marketing and the physical service bay. New software tools are being designed to explicitly connect outreach efforts with highly efficient scheduling and measurable repair revenue.
Let's talk about the mechanics of how this BusyCar platform actually works in a physical shop, because it's not just a fancy digital calendar. One major shift is that they are introducing day-by-day mobile service zones.
Right, because mobile service, where the technician drives a van to your house to fix your car, it's a great convenience feature, but it's a logistical nightmare for the dealer.
Driving all over town.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If a tech drives to the north side of town for one oil change and then all the way to the south side for the next, you are paying a highly skilled worker to basically just sit in traffic.
Right.
By creating mobile service zones, the software clusters nearby jobs based on the day. It drastically reduces technician drive time and maximizes the actual wrench turning.
They also introduced distinct scheduling rules that separate recall work from routine service. And this makes perfect sense when you think about the physical constraints of a garage.
Yeah.
Routine service requires basic parts and entry-level techs. A massive safety recall, though. That might require highly specialized labor and a bay to be tied up for 2 entire days. If your online calendar treats those two things exactly the same, your shop just grinds to a halt.
Completely. The software also provides campaign-level reporting on gross profit and projected annual repair order value.
So it's tracking the actual money.
Exactly. The service manager isn't just looking at how many appointments were booked. They are looking at the actual dollar value generated by a specific text message or email campaign.
You know, the detail that really caught my eye in their update was a metric they call BusyCar engaged. This feature actually credits the marketing outreach if a customer completes an appointment within a 45-day window of the initial contact.
It's so smart.
And the brilliant part is that it counts even if that customer ends up ignoring the online link and just booking through a walk-in or a phone call a month later.
It solves a massive blind spot for dealership management. Traditionally, if you send an email and the customer doesn't click the exact link in the email, the software says the campaign failed.
But human behavior doesn't work like that.
No. You get the email, you remember your car needs service, and 3 weeks later, you happen to drive by the dealership and pull in.
It allows service leaders to know exactly which marketing budgets are actually driving physical repair work. Plus, by optimizing the routing and the calendar, it unlocks shop capacity without having to hire more staff.
Which is vital.
Especially considering there is a massive shortage of automotive technicians globally.
However, the physical reality of fixing cars will always bump up against the digital ideal. What the BusyCar announcement doesn't clarify is how seamlessly these advanced scheduling rules actually integrate with the dealership's existing, often archaic, OEM software.
Oh, that legacy tech can be brutal. And more importantly, software can flawlessly schedule a car to come in at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday, but it cannot magically make a back-ordered transmission part appear on the shelf.
Right. It handles the calendar limits, but it can't fix global supply chain shortages.
That is the ultimate bottleneck. Tech can only optimize the resources you actually have. So we have covered an incredible amount of ground, tracing this all the way from global manufacturing down to a software routing tool for a local mechanic. Let's step back and look at the whole board. When you pull all these threads together, 3 clear themes really jump out.
The first overriding theme is efficiency over expansion. The era of simply building more factories or hiring more people to solve a problem, it's over.
It's done.
We see this clearly supported by the automotive news report on VW, where they are actively cutting their global capacity to align with realistic local demand. And we see it on the retail side with BusyCar creating software to squeeze every ounce of efficiency out of technician routes, unlocking shop capacity without adding headcount.
The second major theme is that service is the engine of sales. We saw this undeniably supported by Penske's massive Q1 fixed ops revenue, which acted as their financial safety net, while vehicle sales were volatile.
Nearly $1 billion.
Right. And it's deeply reinforced by the defection data, showing that the service experience drives 88% of future car purchases. If you fail to impress the customer in the service lane, you forfeit the next car sale.
And the third theme is the battle of perception. Supported heavily by the Judge Service Survey, we see independent shop confidence just soaring. They aren't winning because they have better tools. They are winning the convenience and perception game over franchise dealers, even though the actual repair costs might be entirely comparable.
But within those themes, there are some really fascinating contradictions in the sources we've looked at. First, consider the architectural shift of the industry itself. The report on VW shows a massive multinational corporation moving away from a centralized global manufacturing model. They are pushing toward localized, highly fragmented regional production.
Right.
But at the exact same time, software solutions like BusyCar are doing the exact opposite at the retail level. They are actively centralizing and aggregating fragmented dealership data into one highly unified platform.
It is a profound pull in opposite directions. Physical decentralization at the factory level versus digital centralization at the retail level. And the second major tension lies in the financial reality of the dealerships themselves.
The numbers just don't match up.
Right, you have Penske setting absolute record highs, which heavily contradicts the Judge Service survey, where the vast majority of franchise dealers are rapidly losing optimism and essentially panicking about after-sales.
It paints a picture of an industry dividing into two camps, the massive consolidated players with highly optimized processes who are taking all the chips off the table, while the average unoptimized dealer is slowly bleeding out to the independent shop down the road.
Which brings us to the ultimate practical takeaway from all of this data.
Exactly. So what does this mean for you? Whether you work in the industry or you're just trying to get your brakes fixed, it's this. The moment of truth for the entire auto industry right now is no longer the shiny showroom floor.
Not anymore.
It is the service reception drive. Dealerships must capture the vehicle's condition immediately upon arrival, build trust instantly, and lock in that customer's loyalty before they get frustrated by a clunky process and drive away forever.
Because as vehicles increasingly become massive rolling computers, the dealership that wins the future isn't going to be the one with the biggest neon sign or the most aggressive sales pitch.
No.
It is going to be the dealership that figures out how to make maintaining that computer the absolute most frictionless part of your day.
Next time you take your car in for service, pay close attention to what happens in the first 3 minutes of your arrival. Does someone greet you? Is the intake smooth? Do you feel like you are being helped or just processed?
It makes all the difference.
It really does. That small 3-minute window is deciding the future of a trillion-dollar industry. Thank you for joining this segment of Auto News Talk. Keep that 3-minute window in mind, and we'll catch you on the next one.